Hi everyone, today's tip is going to be kind of a follow-up to the last video that I did on visual storytelling. This movie, Silent Hill, is currently been going on for an hour and 27 minutes, but the issue with it is that really there's no kind of sense of what's actually going on, just that a load of messed up stuff is happening and that there are lots of monsters running around the town. And while this isn't a terrible movie by any means, the biggest issue that the movie has, in my opinion, is what I'm going to show you here.
Congratulations, Rose. You're here. You did it. The reward is the truth. Did you see that Alessa was good, little girl?
And here we go into a very heavily exposition a very heavy exposition dump that pretty much just tells us the story of the film almost as if reading up a plot synopsis on Wikipedia. And it really drags the story of the movie down, because up to that point what we had was a fairly entertaining, intriguing movie, but this is like listening to an audiobook, and it really brings down the mood of the film. So what I'm going to be talking to you a bit about today is dialogue and how to deliver story points without seeming unrealistic and and a bit silly, because a lot of the time in films what we get is characters speaking to each other in a way that just doesn't feel realistic at all, and even worse when it's explaining the story. So here we can see that Finley opens his eyes to find himself sat on the grass by a riverbank on a sunny day. So his is your description of the scene and what's happening. It's beautiful, surrounded by trees and the sound of calmly flowing water, a complete contrast to the grim scenery of the previous scene, which was set in a Red Riding Hood-esque style haunted woods. Sat with him is Thomas, a friend of Finley's, dressed in a red button-up shirt and jeans. His clothing is a lot more colourful than Finley's, contrasting Finley's more muted look. So that there already is showing contrast between the main character and what the kind of the rest of the world is doing, just through very subtle visual motifs, such as colourful clothing with a more muted colour palette. So that's one way you could do a bit of visual storytelling. Another, in films that do have dialogue, this is kind of the way that it should be written to make sure it doesn't sound too fake. Thomas speaks as if Finley has been zoned out. Finley goes, "Oh, sorry, what were you saying, sorry? So how is it going? What? The love life?" And this is a scene of them talking about how Finley needs to get back out there and find find a girlfriend again. But in a poorly written film, it could be perhaps just Finley going and talking to his friends, saying, "Oh, I don't have a girlfriend. Girls don't like me at all. I want to go out there and find somebody." It's just poor storytelling. With dialogue like this, much more realistic, it really brings us into the film world and really helps us to understand what the characters are going through from their own perspective, to help us into the shoes of that character, to understand what they're going through and why it's tough for them, why we should care about them, rather than just watching them go through this turmoil that we don't understand because we don't see it from their perspective. That's why it's important to have dialogue like this, to make sure that the audience feel like they are in the real world, or at least in the worlds that the film has created. Loads and loads of films write dialogue like this, but the half of them do it completely poorly, as well, as you saw in the previous example, just dumping our story onto people. If you do that, it does tend to feel a little bit disrespectful to the audience. A really good film that has some great storytelling is Arrival. That's the film I recommend that you watch this week. I think it's rated a 12, but it's got a great blend of visual storytelling, dialogue, and you need to pay attention to it as well. So don't be playing Temple Run on your phone or anything while you're watching it, because in order to understand and soak up the information, you need to be paying attention. Okay, and that will very much inspire you to write really decent dialogue without disrespecting or underestimating the audience's intelligence in any way. Now, the scripts that I've received so far have been absolutely brilliant. Please do keep sending them in. You don't have to finish them to send them in. Okay, if you're feeling a bit stuck or anything, come to me first. Uh, and I will help you out to kind of help tie up the the issues that you might be having with, and give you some direction on where you can go. Just before I go, I do quickly want to point out that the scripts that you write uh, as a screenwriter and as somebody that works so hard on it, it's very easy to become precious about your screenplay, to not want it to change in any way. In unfortunately, in the industry, there is going to be so many people that will want to change your screenplay, and sometimes that will be for the worse, sometimes it will be for the better. The most important thing to do is to listen to people who, specifically screenwriters, not necessarily producers, because they're more about marketing, but specifically screenwriters and published authors, because they have been in the industry for a long time. They do know what they're doing. They do know what sells, as well as what's compelling. Producers tend to, they know how to sell a script and they know how to market it, but unfortunately, sometimes they will end up changing it to something where it unfortunately does become unrecognizable. So when you prepare if you want to be a screenwriter or a stage writer, do prepare that not to be too precious about your screenplay, because at some point it likely will go out of your control. But the best people to work with are ones that will work together with you to mend your script and make it as good as possible, which is what myself and the rest of Propbox are going to do. So send those scripts in. I'll give you some feedback. And we can all work on our scripts together to make sure that they are as good as they can possibly be. All right, thank you for watching, guys. See you on Monday.